Hello everyone, I'm Susan Birch, the Health Detective, and welcome back to another podcast. My guest today is Bobby Howard, and I'm going to let her introduce herself. She has some amazing talents and she has a fantastic story to share with you. So thanks for coming on, Bobby. Tell us a little bit about yourself and then we'll get into your story.
Kia ora tātou katoa, ko Bobby Howard aho. So my name is Bobby Howard, and I'm originally from Gisborne, but now I live in Rotorua, and I was introduced to Susan through a friend, a mutual friend, and I am keen to get on a better life journey and have wanted to and needed to for years, but never really did anything about it. And ignorance is bliss. So I was ignorant of some things, and then in a point of my life, which is now, my body isn't as what it used to be, and it suddenly said I needed to change some of my ways, which brought me to Susan.
That's great. Do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself in terms of what you do? Because you're a fabulous, musician. You're very creative. Tell everybody a little bit about yourself.
Oh, true. That's myself. Yeah. So I'm a creative. I am a singer. Well, I trained as a vocalist. Trained in jazz voice, but I'm a musician as well. Just love all things music. Have done that since I was young. But my work that I have been doing, it's been in the community and youth development. So it's just doing community being anyone and everyone, families in need. Youth is probably my passion, working with young people. I've always loved that, probably because when I was young, I had most of my music mentors were when I was young, and I just remember what they did for me, and I kind of wanted to always pay it forward, hence why music has always kind of been parallel to everything I've done. Music's what I do, musical theatre, quite anything music really. I've just got to be always doing something like that. And then, my work, I trained as a primary teacher. So, I've had many different jobs, and I found as I got older and just wanted to explore a bit more, I did. I'm that type of person. So, yeah.
Fabulous. So, you were talking about sort of ignoring things or, sort of pretending things don't matter. Do you want to explain a bit more about that and a little bit more about your health journey and, what sort of things you were ignoring? And
well, probably, when you're brought up, like my life has been quite simple in terms of my upbringing around health. So the things that I knew growing up was, if you want to be healthy, you've got to be doing, exercise, and not necessarily looking at what I was putting in my body in terms of food and that. And I didn't know much about it, like things like protein, and I knew you have your veggies in there, but I just didn't know the why. And I didn't inquire any more than that either. I always kind of found that the thing that I was struggling with, I didn't want to know much about. And that's what I think. That's what I think now. But growing up, I'm just a meat and potato girl. The only veggies we had was peas in a can, or mixed veggies in a packet. And that's all I knew, and I'm the only one in my family, immediate family, that's big. So and I'm thinking, okay, how come I ended up like what I did? And just thought it was just more about what I was putting in my body, which is true, but I didn't know how my body works or reacts to certain food, which I now know. Like, so some of the foods that I've been having don't work for my body. But because I didn't know that, I just kept doing that kind of stuff. And you just keep, doing what you're doing. And it's not until your body kind of lets you know that, hey, you can't do that anymore. So as I got bigger and bigger over the years, and yet I'm still quite mobile for a big person, and could still do things, and probably had a lot of stamina, more than most. So it never really stopped me until my body stopped me, and then I was forced to do something about it.
So some of the symptoms you had, I remember you telling me that you were quite fatigued, or more that once we got on top of your diet and you started to lose some weight, you suddenly found you had a lot of energy, and you realized that before you had been a lot more fatigued, and that made it harder to do things.
Yeah, it was like you don't know what you don't know until something changes, and then and then when the change happens, you realize, oh, that's what happened, you know. So I didn't realize that, you know, the things that were quite detrimental for me is sugar and carbs. And because I love my potatoes, you know, I absolutely love potatoes. And sugar, I wasn't necessarily a sugar person, but I had a lot of foods or processed foods that had sugar. Which I didn't realize. I just didn't understand what those do to your body, you know. And so when I started to, I think the signs for me was just like I had a hormone issue, I had heavy bleeding, and then just found, you know, end of 2019, or was it end of 2018, I would just, you know, the monthly cycle was so heavy, and I just remember getting really, really tired. And you know, earlier on, like I used to come home and after work and then go to bed after work, you know, I know, and that's when I started to really take notice. Like you'd think, the thing that really kind of shocked me into doing something was having my stamina affected. You think it'd be sickness or a cold or whatever. No, because I could still push through, but it was when I couldn't do what I wanted, when I found that things that I was doing was being limited because I was either tired or just not feeling well. That kind of shocked me, because I was like, "Oh, I've never had that before. I've been able to do whatever I want. Like weight hasn't been the issue, being big hasn't been the issue, but when I was starting to get tired, my stamina was, you know, running out. It kind of freaked me out, and I thought, oh, I need to do something about this, but what exactly I didn't know. And then Gay, who introduced me to you, kind of was just telling me stuff, and I was like, oh, okay, you know. And then I think she sent me some videos, and I was starting to watch it, and I went, it's quite interesting. So I watch things, and then from people that I know and trust, I kind of go, okay, I'll check it out for myself. And then it just kind of gelled. But again, because I know when I met you, it was like, it wasn't until I think a year later that I actually really did something. Okay, it was kind of, it's amazing. Yeah, it's amazing how it took a real drastic thing to happen. Oh, it was drastic for me, probably not for everybody else, but things like having to be dependent on medication freaks me out.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I thought, oh no. Whereas I've had other, you know, some of the health issues I had were quite life-threatening, but that didn't freak me out. It was just being told, oh, you're going on medication, and that freaks me out. And I thought, oh, it's such a weird way of thinking, but that's what's moved me into action.
How useful was it, me being able to talk to you about your blood tests and show you, using those, what was happening in your body, and you know that you couldn't tolerate those processed foods, that they were damaging your body, and that your body was really deficient in nutrients, you know, so you didn't have all the building blocks to make your body run properly?
It was useful because it was factual. It was from something that I could understand in terms of that it's my blood, so it's from me. So being able to, I think the first thing that I found interesting was you were telling me information that I thought you'd get from a doctor. I thought I would be told this, and I didn't know. It was like, okay, if I'm low in this and that, shouldn't I be having something for it? And because I don't know, the majority of the people don't know. It's amazing how much you just go along with it and you don't inquire and ask. But you can't ask questions when you don't know. And I just realized just how much I didn't know. And therefore now I know now that for my health, I've got to be the seeker of that knowledge. I can't expect to be told. And so now I'm a bit more mindful. So I know when I go to my doctor now, and or if I'm going, like I recently had an operation. So when I went through that process, I just know what to ask. And there's been some information where they go, oh yeah, they forget to tell you. I don't know whether they forget to tell you or it's left up to someone else to tell you, but they don't tell you. There just seems to be a bit of a mismatch. But I certainly don't rely on other people for my health. I've learned that now. I just can't. I've got to have a look for myself. I've got to learn, especially because it's your body, and I'm in that mode now to really want to know what different things are, what the right balance of protein or carbs, and because I didn't even know all that stuff. I was very basic. I didn't know much at all, so I'm really going out of my way to do it. So, and I probably work better with the science anyway. It's probably something I can understand, like factual things. Just tell me straight, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or whatever. I'm not very good with the kind of like, I deal with heartbeat. Yeah.
I'm thinking about, when we first met and talked about stuff, and you weren't really worried about your weight. So weight wasn't a huge motivator for you. So even though you said, look, I know I'm overweight, you still do all the things that you want to do. You're an amazing performer. You know how to use your weight to your advantage. And I wonder if one of the reasons it took you so long, or it took you that year to come back, was that you needed that health to deteriorate for you to make that decision. So you weren't really making a decision based on, I desperately want to lose some weight. You were making a decision on, I desperately don't want to have to be on medications for the rest of my life. And then, of course, as a result of that, you have lost some weight and you're looking amazing, and you're feeling great about that as well.
Yeah, I think if you're a person like me that's in the performing arts, where you're judged on your visual, you're judged on what you look like, and I know that, and so over the years I've built that immunity. So I know when I walk into a theatre or walk on the stage or whatever, people straight away are going to go, oh, he's that big girl, what's she going to do? So I already expect that, and I've built up an immunity to that, because it can put you off as a performer, and so you suddenly become self-conscious. Whereas I already know all that stuff, and I've built up an immunity, but I've built it up so well that I think to change that, it had to take my health to deteriorate to wake me up. Because if someone said, because I always get told that, you hear that all the time, oh, you got to lose some weight so you can look really, that doesn't mean anything to someone like me who's built up an immunity to that, because it's such, the arts is based on the exterior, whereas I'm like, no, because if I suddenly was conscious of that, I don't think I would have been that confident on stage. But so it had to be something else to wake me up, which was, and then I had to, because I suppose when you build up immunity, you almost become so detached from your body, you miss some of the signs. So I felt like I was a little bit detached, and therefore didn't feel or wasn't in tune with my body to know something was wrong. And it took that deterioration to go, hey, you're not well. You look well, but you're not inside, you're not well and you need to do something. But I was just good at going, "Oh, no, I can soldier on," but no, I couldn't. And then a point came where I had to, you know, and it
Yeah.
had to be the thought of being on medication, you know, for high blood pressure and cholesterol. I don't like medication. I don't know why. I mean, I've seen people with it, or you know people with it, and family members that are on it. But with the thought of me being on it, just doesn't. I don't know. I just don't like that. I don't like being dependent on something outside of me, and it just feels like I'm out of control. And I don't like that feeling. So it's like, okay, what I need to take ownership of my body. So what do I need to do? And that's what kind of has been the catalyst for me to do something. And in doing that, you're having the results of losing the weight. And then it's like, oh, okay, well, this is different. And people saying that to you, like, oh, you've lost weight. Oh, you look, like people go, oh my gosh, you're glowing. And I'm like, well, what was I before? That, I was like, I thought I was always glowing. But anyway, but just things like that, because I don't usually look at, I don't concentrate on people's exterior, because I know what that's like being judged on this. So I tend to see past that stuff.
Yeah.
But not everybody's like that. And I'm reminded that, people are about the visual. And it's okay, that's just life. But
That's the world we live in, isn't it?
yeah.
It is the world we live in. So we did quite a bit of work. So, we looked at your blood test results, and then I was able to explain to you about, how your own body works individually. And so that could be causing those problems to happen, which you understood really quickly and made those changes quickly. But what about, we did quite a lot of work on where you were at mentally, like emotionally and psychologically about it as well, because we find that people can often do what you've done for a short term, but then being able to maintain it when life gets busy and in the way is a problem. So how helpful did you find doing that work?
For change to happen, you have to do that work. And I didn't, that was probably part of the hesitation to do anything about the weight, because I knew that there's a psychology behind everything we do. And it's not something I like to delve into much. I don't like to get, it forced me to journal, which I don't like. And it's just because when you're left with your own thoughts, it's quite confronting. And that's what I found. And I realized, I don't reflect much, and I don't usually. I do what I do, and then I move on. And I've always been, and that's, I've always been that type of person. I don't spend enough time in one area to get depressed about something or to get excited about something. I just go, I'm in the moment, and I move on. So with the workbook, along with the health, the learning about food and nutrition and the way the body works, it was kind of, it has to happen for change to happen, and then change to stay. And it's not easy. Like, I found myself, going, like, I had to do a big kind of preparation to actually sit and to reflect. So that meant that I had to block out some time. It meant that I had to be away from the main living area. I had to be in a place where there was no distraction, because I knew it was going to be hard for me to sit there and reflect on the whys around to where I am today. And I find that kind of stuff really confronting, but it's necessary. And I think you just have to be kind to yourself when you, because it takes me a long time, I realise, to reflect or to have that time. Like, one question took me hours to answer, because I just found that I was just thinking and thinking and thinking. You just had to unpack. One question, there were like layers of question in that one, as you sit there and reflect about it, like why, which is necessary as to why, you are at the stage of life you are right here, right now. So for me, why am I big? What's the reason behind being the size I am? Which is that's a loaded question, which has a series of questions in amongst that. So I felt myself just writing and rewriting and thinking and pondering and then having to go back again because I wanted to be honest with myself, and it has to have that honesty. Otherwise, you could revert back to habit. And then even if you did revert back because you thought about it, you could go back on track. And I just find that's where the kindness comes in, I think, because you have to do that. Like it, I'm in my 40s. It took me that long to get this big. I think it's going to take that long to, you know what I mean? It's 40 years of thinking. It has to be unpacked, and that's, I understand that.
I love what you said about being kind to yourself, because I think one of the things that we talked about was, if you get off track, and I don't even like using those words because I don't like to think about it as having to be like what we eat and do is this rigid thing at all. It's a flowing, complex thing that we, that's just a part of our lives, and we just need to be able to incorporate it naturally. But let's say you get off track. So let's say, I think you had to go away to a tangi or something, or you were away, and you're out of your home environment and lots of other people, and those kinds of situations where it's really easy. Yeah, it's much easier just to go with the flow sometimes. But I think what you said is so important, that you now had the grounding to know that just be kind and accept that that's life. But then, hey, I can step back into my wellness again, and I can step back into my self-care, and I can step back into, like really wanting the best health for myself.
Absolutely. And because like I've had to do that quite a few times during my journey. Probably a couple of times, really, 3 times. And because I'm such a high achiever, I got to do it good. I've always been that way. When I do something, I do it well. And I realized that that's the obstacle as well, that you're putting that pressure on yourself. And I recognized it, and I thought, oh, okay. And then, but I found that being able to know when you do go off track, and then coming back on track, and just the strategies of getting back on, that kind of stuff that I wouldn't have known before. Usually I'd just go, well, never mind, throw it all away. But yeah, you realize each time that, oh, okay, this is okay. And so it's not here, it's not emotionally you're not affected, like, oh, I stuffed up, and then you get all hard on yourself. That's gone, which is quite good, because and I just I feel like I'm, and I'm still losing weight, and I'm still on track. So yeah, it's like, oh, okay, all right, it's all good. And so it's learning each time. You're learning every time you're as you do new things, and you're like, okay. And what I'm enjoying is finding out how my body works, what works for my body and what doesn't. I'm enjoying that. I feel like I'm a bit more in tune with myself now, more than ever, because I haven't been before.
I really love that. We used some analogies when we were working together. You talked about getting off track in the past and then going, oh, the hell with it, like, too late now, I've stuffed that up, I can't do this, kind of, and then you just go back to what you were doing. And so, we had some analogies that we talked about at different times about, if you don't clean your teeth one night, you don't get up the next morning and go, oh man, that's it, well, I can never clean my teeth again. The first thing you do is go and find your toothbrush and clean your teeth, or, so I think keeping those things in mind is important. And we talked a lot about, don't miss twice, and so it's like, okay, well, tonight's dinner wasn't that good, but man, tomorrow's breakfast, I'm going to really make up for that,
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, which is great. How do you think other people feel about their bodies the way you do? Do you think that that's a common kind of thing? Do you know from friends and family how they talk about their bodies? Or
I think there's a lot of putting up with whatever they're going through, like in terms of like if there's something, if they're not well or they're not feeling well or something's not quite right within their body, they don't stop to have a look at that. It's like people wait till it's really, really painful or it's late to get anything done. And I've realized it's because we put up with stuff, and especially women, we tend to just take on a lot of things. And it's that she'll be right, no, okay, I'm fine, and you push past the pain or the discomfort, but it's actually those are the signs, those are the early signs that something needs to be done. And I think there's a lot of that. There's a lot of people that ignore those little signs, and they ignore, I think self-care is lacking, and then just that because life is busy, stressful, that there's a lot of people that their own personal health is ignored because it's almost like I don't know what it is, but it's like people put everything else first before your own self. And if you suddenly stop to take a look at yourself, you could feel like you're being selfish because you've got, there are other people worse off than you, or you've got children, family, to take care of, but you actually really need to take care of yourself. And we know it, but it's not until you go through something which threatens it that you really know it. Like I knew that, I've heard the sayings that, make sure you're okay, because if you're not okay, then you're not going to be able to help anyone else. We know that saying. I've heard that. But I didn't really know it until it actually came to fruition, where my own personal health was, jeopardized or compromised. And I just thought, and I physically couldn't help anyone else. I had nothing in me. So I thought, oh, okay. And so that's it. It's that. I don't want people need to take note of their health while they're well. And then just have a look at how you can improve, health, not in just a physical sense, but in every aspect of health, mental, emotional, your spiritual health, all those, physical health. It's all of those areas you need to have a look at because, I don't think we give enough time to that because we're always busy.
And I think one thing I've realized over the years, after having, raised a family and being a wife and working, and it's quite hard to carve out that time for yourself. But one of the things I've realized over the years is that you're setting a really good example to your kids if you do carve out that time for yourself. Because if all you ever do is run around after them and run around after your husband or partner, and then you're running around after your, the bosses at work, you're just telling, you're teaching your kids that you're not important. And so then, when your daughters grow up to become mothers and things, then they adopt that same habit, going, well, I'm not important. Everybody else is more important than I am. And you teach your sons that they should be on a pedestal and everyone should run around and look after them. And so again, you're teaching them that you're not important. So I think, I've been thinking about that. I think it's probably a really good thing is that if we can carve out that time for ourselves and we can say to the kids, no, mum's busy right now. Mum's going to do some meditation, or mum's going to read a book, or mum's going to do some exercise, or mum's not going to eat that because she's looking after herself. I think those are good lessons for our children growing up.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Mm.
I think I learned some of mine was definitely learned in terms of some of the like in terms of when I used to work in the community and youth sector, I lived for everybody else. I was really I'm quite good at serving everybody else to the point where I was, at the expense of myself. And I learned, I know where I got that from. And because I was in the reflections that I've been through the workbook, I thought, oh, I know who modeled that, and then I, and not knowingly, yeah, this is the thing, parents I don't think they know what they actually teach or what your child will read in the situation and pick up. So, and then because my father's such a servant hunter people, he's just brilliant. And then I realized, oh man, I've learned it off you. And he never purposely, it wasn't a spoken thing. He just modeled that, and I love, and and because you love your father, you love your parent, you want to do what they do, and not actually, actually see how you internalize or perceive a certain situation, and you take it on. And like I was talking to my dad about it now, and he kind of understands now, being older, and he goes, oh yeah, well, you've got there's a limit, and it's like, now you tell me. But yeah, there's these unspoken things that that our parent, that like there are things that our parents do, and we don't know the full story, but we just pick up what we pick up, and we take that on.
Yeah.
And I find that because my parents are still alive, I get to have those conversations around that.
Which is
And he goes,
great.
no, and he's like, no, there's a limitation. And I went, oh, but growing up, I didn't see, I didn't know that. And then it's not until an adult when you think, where you can ask your parents, or if they're still around, ask them, hey, when you did that, did you ever? And my dad does, like he has his downtime, and he used to, he still does. He's a praying man, so he used to, pray early hours of the morning, and that was his time. And I went, oh, that's your meditation time, or what is it, the quality time? That was his, but I never knew that. So it's quite interesting how, just what we pick up as children, but also what we do. We're parents, what we model to our children, and just being mindful of stuff like that. But so again, you only know those things when you have that reflection time. So I find that the workbooks and those questions are kind of just unpack things as to why you are the way you are, and how that affects your health and everything about you, really.
And then about what you want for your health for the future as well, and I think being able to say, well, if I keep going the way I'm going, I'm in my 40s now, what am I going to be like when I'm 60 or 70, which becomes a bit of a scary thought, but if you do something now, you can still be glowing when you're in your 70s.
Yeah, and it's teaching that forward thinking, because when you're young, you don't think about things like that. You're actually in that state of thinking you're invincible. And, like now at this stage of my life, I'm like, man, that's why they said do it way back with it, that, I'm like, wow, wish I understood. But I suppose it's not until you go through something that threatens your body, or an experience which makes you think that you understand what the impact of that. And so I'm mindful of it now, of getting older and making sure that those last years of my life, I'm at, I'm still able to do certain things, and still still healthy, and able to just have my faculties about me and things like that, just to be present, I suppose. And I know that if I continue in what I used to do, that I won't have that quality of life. So I just want to, I'm mindful to change that behavior now.
So we talked a little bit earlier about, sort of like the medicalization of our health. And I know when we first met, I can remember you saying to me how uncomfortable, and you didn't want to be talking to doctors and you didn't want to be going to the hospital. And how much of a role did that play in you sort of like suppressing what was going on? Did that have an effect?
Well, I think I always had this assumption that what they say goes.
Mm-hmm.
And when you have family members that are unwell, or people that are close to you that pass away, or terminally ill, every visit to the doctor or hospital was around that, and it just had a negative, it changed my perception of it. So it kind of stifled me from when I was having my own issues on being able to communicate or ask questions because of those, what I've experienced previously. I didn't ask questions, even when I didn't know what they were talking about. I didn't feel like I could. And then because I didn't know what to ask at times, it just kind of things were left up in the air. And it wasn't until just different people I knew that were quite assertive around their health, and it's like I have to see it modeled for me to be able to go, oh, that's what you do. Otherwise I tend to go with the flow. But but there's a perception that, whatever you're told from a doctor's a doctor, that you naturally assume, oh, well, they know. They are a doctor, they've done, you've got your life in their hands. So they've done all that study. So, and I think it's a perception that we have more than what, I don't know what doctors think. I've got some doctor mates and they're quite, they're all right. I just think there's a perception of the medical field that we have as, people. And sometimes we play into that because we don't know. We don't usually challenge because we don't know, because you think, because they're highly qualified at what they do, you almost surrender that power over.
Yeah.
They should know. And I was definitely like that. And in my health journey, it was a visiting doctor that actually picked up my initial diagnosis. So I had, I think they call it hyperplasia, endometrial hyperplasia, which is just heavy bleeding of the womb, and the womb, and it develops into endometrial cancer if not looked after or not checked. And so mine developed, it was initially there, and then it went into endometrial cancer. And it was through that journey and getting a doctor that was, and I think it's getting the right doctor, but also you being in the right space to receive the information and ask questions. So that was quite a journey. And then I got this one doctor, she was amazing. And she explained what I had, because I didn't even know it was hyperplasia. They probably told me, but it just went over my head. And then she initially diagnosed the cancer, and it was early stages. So she was able to take me through that journey, and I was like, oh wow. And then I started to do my own research. I started to look online, tried to find reputable sites to read from, and just found those common things to be able to go, okay, this is what it is, this is what I can do. And then when I from diagnosis to getting the cancer cut out, which was a full hysterectomy, and then I got the all clear, by the way. It's
well done. Congratulations.
yeah. So once I got the full hysterectomy, and there was a cyst on my ovary, a 10 centimeter cyst, which wasn't cancerous at all. And then the cancer that was in the womb, it was contained. Yeah, so it was just in the womb. So the hysterectomy did it, and they checked around, and so that feeling was like, oh wow, I didn't really know what to think when I got the news to say you're cancer free, and I was kind of like, oh okay, but I kind of always knew my body was okay. And even they were amazed, because it took me 2 years to get to the operating table and to have anything done, because I just knew my body. That was one thing. I just knew things were okay, but I knew that there was a reason why I got to where I got to, and I needed to unpack it all, because I kind of believe, emotional things that are, that are not dealt with emotionally, I always think manifest into physical things. That's just my belief. So anything you suppress or trauma and unresolved trauma, I think always manifests in some way. They say in a woman, it is the womb area, or around that area. So I just kind of went, oh, okay. So I had to look at what got me to that place, which is a whole layer of things. It wasn't one particular area or one particular incident, or it was just things that I built up over the years that I didn't deal with. And then as I went through this health journey, and that's what I mean, those booklets and the questions and the conversations and the learning, just unpacked it all and kind of made me have to deal with stuff. So even though I knew physically I was okay, I knew it was a wake-up call. I knew I was getting a bit of a, you better change, or this could be worse. And so when I got the all clear, I was like, okay. I wasn't like jumping around, because I kind of always knew inwardly, I knew I was going to be okay, but I knew it was a wake-up call. Yeah, I just knew that I was, I was getting a warning.
And you recovered so well from the surgery, because you'd got your health so much back on track that it was a breeze for you. You were like, oh, I'm good.
Well, look, I'm walking around now, you wouldn't believe like how many weeks ago that 2 weeks ago, I went and had that major surgery, and it was done laparoscopically. It just worked out, I'd never been in an operation before. I'd never been put on anesthetic, there were risk factors around me because I was bigger, and people were preparing me for the worst, but it was the opposite once it was done, and to everyone's amazement, really, even the doctors. But again, I knew my body. One of the things going into the op, I kind of knew I was a fast healer. I've always known, because like when I get cuts and that, I know the next day it was closed, I was like, oh, that's fast, and I just noticed things like that. If there's a break in my skin, or I was feeling unwell, sleep is a big healer for me, and just rest. And I noticed I just come right quite fast. I've never had Panadol and stuff like that. I've not been a person that has any type of pain relief. So I always had, I get a little bit nervous when I'm told I've got to have antibiotics or things like that, because I have nothing. Most of my life I didn't have any of that kind of stuff, and just toughed it out. So, but when I had the operation and all the pain relief and all that, it didn't seem like I had an operation. And I'm thinking, is this what the medications, like the pain relief? Because I don't have Panadol, so I never really knew the effects of it, and I went, if I had known. But I'm off that now. I've come off all that stuff, and I'm still really quite well in terms of it's just discomfort, because of course I've had major surgery. My female reproductive, they're gone. So it's my body getting used to that now, and it's me getting used to that now, because it's like, I have that sense of a part of me is missing, but I feel well in the sense of my health and well-being. But I know that now it starts from here. I do, in terms of getting on track and seeing where it takes me, because I know that now the weight's starting to come off. The next goal is to, because while I was in surgery, they put me on these high blood pressure and other pill, I think, for cholesterol, because it was quite high. And I'd always had it high, but I never took no medication for that. So, but while I was in surgery and that, they put that in, because I was having high blood pressure. So I still have that medication. I didn't want it, but that's what I'm on it now. So the goal is to get off that. That's what it is.
And it's totally possible to get off that. Like, so many people get off blood pressure medication. You don't need to be on blood pressure medication. Most people don't. Most people, if they change their diet and their lifestyle, don't need to be taking blood pressure medication. Most people can reverse their type 2 diabetes if they decide to, because it always sounds a bit mean and cruel, but those are all diseases of lifestyle. Those are all diseases of how our modern lifestyle has evolved, and how our environment has changed so much from the way we evolved to be. And, so that's really what drives those diseases and conditions. And so if we can just reverse some of those lifestyle things, we can go back to how our body's meant to be operating, in the real world.
That's the goal.
Yeah, that's the goal. Hey, last week we talked for a while, and we talked a bit about, you're an amazing role model for other women, and you can really express and understand the feelings and where they're at, and the kind of environment, that they may be in. What are your thoughts about, I'd really like to challenge you to step up as a role model and taking on a leadership role with helping other women through the kind of process that you've been through.
Yeah, it'll be different. I want to, if I can help someone kind of make those changes in their life, so that they can have better quality of life, I do it. I think once you learn stuff like that, or you go through something, and if you can try and tell as many people as you can, so they don't have to go through that, I think that's something that you should do. And I'm still on that journey. I'm still learning a bit more about it, and I can't wait till I get to a point where the journey in itself is going to be evident as people see me physically change, like some can already tell, and I tell them why. So I get asked all the time, oh, what are you doing? And I've told people about your stuff, and they've taken it on. And they're doing it themselves. They either signed up themselves, or
haven't you got an auntie who's sort of just absorbed all the information? She's just gone off and done some amazing things. Was that your auntie?
Yeah, she's lost quite a bit of weight, actually, 10 kgs so far.
Yeah.
And because I just didn't realize, just everybody I've told, but I think when you go through that life change and people know your journey as well, like they're willing to listen. I just, I'm just thinking why, how can I tell, probably who to tell, because I just naturally tell people that I meet or that I run into. But and because it is a new area for me, health has not been the same. Like if you say, oh, Bobby's going to give a health talk or tell you about health, then, most people wouldn't associate that word with me.
Yeah.
But, and it's not something I would have ever thought I'd do, but I think that's what makes it quite interesting to do, because it's something that you haven't been, what is it, haven't done before. And something you haven't done before is always scary. But like for me, I just know that if I understood what I know now back then, I wouldn't have had to have that hysterectomy,
Yeah.
And that's the regret I have, was that I didn't understand how the food, contributes to the hormones and then contributes to, why everything was out of whack, for me, because initially it was hormonal, in terms of what started the whole.
It's that insulin cascade, and everybody worries about blood sugar, and all the doctors worry about keeping your blood sugar down, but it's that insulin cascade. And nobody's really talking about the connection between insulin and breast cancer, and insulin and endometrial cancer, and insulin and prostate cancer, and and it's a conversation we've got to start having out there in the community. And then once we measure your insulin, we can go, hey, like, whoa, like you're not supposed to have this much insulin going around in your body all the time. And what makes the insulin go around like that? It's all those hidden sugars that you talked about in the beginning, like they're in those processed foods, and you're not putting sugar in your coffee or sugar on your cereal, but you don't realize that all those foods are just convert straight into sugar, and that converts straight into making insulin, and then insulin converts straight into, when it gets too high, into damaging all your hormones and damaging all your blood vessels, and and now we have kind of all these health problems starting.
And you're right, you don't know that stuff. I didn't know that stuff. I mean, I knew I had hormonal issues, because years ago, but I didn't know it would lead to cancer, you just don't have the connection was, because the focus was my weight. No one ever said, if you don't, if you don't, instead of saying, well, actually, what is it about the weight? I said, because I'm just thinking about the physical, but it's not that the food that you're eating and the stuff inside the food is what your body is reacting to. And then that's throwing your hormones off, or, well, you know what I mean? If someone had said that to me, I would have been, but telling me, to fix that, you just need to lose weight. And I went, sure.
Yeah.
Right, that makes sense. Hey, you know what I mean? It's like you don't understand. And I just understand that.
We focus on weight from, like you were saying, from an image perspective. You said in the beginning, as a performer, and you get up on stage and everyone's like, oh, well, what can the fat girl do? And we kind of focus on weight from that perspective, but we don't focus on weight as being one of the markers of our health. So that as we start to put that weight on, that should be, just like you go to the doctor and your blood pressure gets high, as your waist starts to get bigger and you start to put that weight on and you can't lose it, that's just as big a marker as your blood pressure going high or your cholesterol being high. It's actually a marker that something inside your body is not doing what it's supposed to be doing anymore. And you need to find out why, And
because I was trying it, the thing is, I had been, like my husband can eat more than me. He eats more than me. And I'm like, where does it go? I'm forever going, does it go to your big toe? That's our kind of little running joke. And he always said, oh, it's because he's quite active, and he is, and he isn't. But it just, and I just thought, I wonder if it's something hormonal in me that doesn't quite work. I kind of knew that there was something within that wasn't kind of connecting, but I didn't know what, and I didn't ask the doctors that, because they just tell you, and probably because I wasn't really clear on what it was, really. You know what I mean? Because you just get told, it's the weight, it's this, it's that, but it's like, I know for me, I need to know how it all connects.
And I think they say, oh, it's genetic, like, so someone, your blood sugars start going up, like you get into being pre-diabetic or diabetic, and they go, oh, it's genetic, and you go, oh, my family are like that. And it's true, like I've got the genes for type 2 diabetes, but the genes don't mean that you have to be a diabetic. It's your genes evolved from the environment that your ancestors lived in. So your ancestors didn't live in an environment where we got takeaways and processed foods and seed oils. They lived in an environment where they were really active getting their food. They had tons of seafood, they had seasonal kind of vegetables or greens and some berries. And all of a sudden you're taking your genetics from that environment and you're sticking them into this modern environment, and they don't know what to do because they haven't evolved to survive that environment. So of course they just get overloaded and overwhelmed, and then they stop responding properly, and then we end up with all this kind of chronic disease and illness. And then people just get blamed for being, oh, you're lazy, or you're slothful, or you need to do some exercise. And sometimes it's not even just that. It's just that the food you're eating isn't matching your personal genetics. And I had to learn that myself, and so I have to be really careful about what I eat to make sure it matches my genetics so I don't get type 2 diabetes.
That's what that's the kind of the step I'm taking in terms of learning a little bit more. Like I know certain foods, like I can, when I if I eat something and it has sugar in it or carbs, I know straight away what my body does. I just get really tired. Sluggish usually for me is an indicator that I've had carbs. When I get tired, sugar, I know, oh, there must have been sugar in this, because that's how I know now. And so because mental clarity, I noticed, was the first thing when everything came on track, when I started to follow that protein diet. Mental clarity and the energy was kind of the first indicators I had, and it was kind of, I was like, wow, is this what it feels like? So and that's what I've kind of is taking as being more intuitive to my body. Those are the things I'm noticing. Whereas before I never really, I never took notice. I just soldiered on, even though I was tired or sluggish. But now I'm just mindful of that, that's what, when I have certain foods, that if there's quite a bit of carbs, or if I've had too much, I usually get sluggish. Actually, it's any carb, no matter. I tend to get quite sluggish. So it.
So your person, you're really sensitive to that. Whereas your husband is obviously made a bit differently, and he's not as sensitive to it as you are. And that's why we need real individualized medicine, personalized medicine, where we're looking at you and we're looking at your blood test and we're going, how's your body responding to this? Not like, how's everyone else's body responding to this?
Yeah, and I think that's the key, like when you read my my blood test, and the first thing was low in iron, but I was really low. And you went, oh, you must feel exhausted. And I just went, that's exactly what I feel. But that was the trigger for me. That was the thing that made me think, because no one knew that by looking at me. No one would know I was tired. It was only when I came home in my space that I just would just go to sleep.
But your doctor should have known. Your doctor should have looked at those blood tests and gone, okay, you're exhausted. I mean, there's no excuse really.
Yeah, I don't know. They didn't. I've never got any feedback on my bloods other than, blood pressure's high. No, what actually did I even get that? I don't think I even got that, because it's from doctors that are not usually like. I had a different doctor this one particular time, and she said, "Oh, you're a bit high." She was the one that prescribed the pills, not my normal doctor. So when my doctor goes on leave, you usually get another doctor. So it's just things like that. But now I kind of weigh it up.
Yeah.
Now that I listen to my body, I'm not a medical professional, but I know how my body works. And to get to where I am today, like when, to after 2 years, there was no growth from, the growth of cancer did not grow in the 2 years. I did nothing about it. I wouldn't have any medication. Said no. I wouldn't get on the operator. And it wasn't, it was because it didn't, I felt like I needed what my body needed. What I needed was I needed to be in a space for that. And I wasn't, because I had so much going on. I was still working. I was dealing with some stuff that was going on, and I knew I wasn't really well. I wasn't, and I don't know how I know this, but I knew that I had to be in every sense I had to be well before I went on that operating table, or if I did anything, because I just knew that I wasn't going to recover well. Like, recovery wouldn't be well. I mean, I don't know who told me. You know what I mean? No one told me that. That was just something that I just felt.
Just your instinct, I think, Bobby. That was just instinct there. Yeah.
And then sure enough, what is it? I finally get on the operating table. It was so seamless, and in the notes it had, uncomplicated procedure, minimal blood loss, under 100 mils, and I'm like, wow, that's amazing, because, being bigger, I had images of blood splurting everywhere. So, that's what I always think. And then, it just seemed like it was quite it was a complex operation, but it was everything was seamless. It just went really well. Recovery and all, my response to the medication, and though I had to have all what they were giving me, I was okay with that. I was in a place where, okay, I'm going to have this medication that they give me, and my body reacted quite well to it. Because usually I get really quite sick from any type of medication, but this one was quite fine. Probably because my body got the shock of its life by being cut open, but I recovered well, and now I'm, most of the meds are, the times I've run out, and so I'm now in that transition of no more meds, which is fine, because I'm ready for that. I don't want to be dependent on anything, and now it's the natural course of healing.
Yeah. And our next goal is just to get those blood pressure meds, get you off those blood pressure meds, and
absolutely,
get you off those statins, and then you're well on your way, to fulfilling a great life for the next 40 years journey you've got in front of you. Hey, Bobby, it's been absolutely amazing talking to you. When we started, I said, probably about 20 minutes, and we've managed to gas bag our way for like at least an hour.
Oh.
It's been a real privilege to work with you, and a real joy, and it's been so inspiring for me to see, the changes in you physically and emotionally, and, everything that you bring to this process. So I really thank you for that. And thanks so much for sharing this journey with people, because I hope that by listening to this, people will feel some hope that there is something that they can do, because I think sometimes there's an unspoken fear and desperation, and you know that something's not right, but you don't know what it is. You don't know who to talk to about it. You don't know what to do about it. You're damn scared to go to the doctor or the hospital because you don't want to know what could be going on. And so I think that you sharing your story brings a lot of hope for a lot of people, you know, who listen to this.
Oh, absolutely, and it is scary, and those fears are very much present, and they were in my journey. But I always have this kind of silver lining approach to life. Like, what will be, will be. If your time is up, it's up. I always had a sense that it wasn't my time.
Yeah.
But I knew it was a wake-up call. And it is about conquering those fears. And you've got one body, you've only got one life, and it is scary to take ownership of your health and to ask questions, and to the point where you demand it, because it is your life and you are the only one in charge of your life. And we have this, I think we've surrendered our power over, for whatever reason we do that. A lot of people do that, and I did that. And now that I've taken that ownership back, it's scary, but you have to do it. Once you do it, you just feel, it's like getting your voice back. It's like being able to stand up, and you don't realize that, that you do that. It could be, and it may not just be in your health, it may be actually other areas, but when you stand up in one area, you just find that you can stand up in everything.
Yeah.
And it's that courage that I want to encourage people. When it comes to your health, you have to do it. And when you find people that can give you that knowledge and teach you, that's even better. So thank you, Susan. Thank you for just your knowledge and everything that you've done and that you do. And thank you, Gay. No, she was the one Gay's persistent. She was the one knocking on my door all the time. But I'm glad she's like that, and I'm glad that there are people out there like you, Susan. And I've told my friends, and I pretty much tell anyone that has that wanna have a better health. So keep doing what you're doing, and thank you for this opportunity to kōrero to people.
Oh, amazing. Thank you so much.